Hello everybody, and in today's video we're going to be talking about how you can deliver better gymnastics lessons within your primary school. So we're going to break this down into three parts. First, your structure to your lessons. Secondly, the safety aspects that you need to know for delivering gymnastics. And finally, your skills. So they're the sort of your flights, your rolls, all the different skills that you need to know as a gymnastics teacher. So the first thing we're going to talk about is structure, and structure being how you're going to deliver your PE lesson. So there's three different ways you can do this that I'm going to show you today. And the first one is more of a traditional standard PE lesson that you'd expect to see. So imagine this is a time frame of your whole lesson. You've normally got start and the end, you've got your sort of putting your shoes on and taking your shoes off and all that sort of stuff. With that as well, then you've got, I would say you're sort of splitting this into thirds. So the first third is a warm-up. Now this is going to be something creative. If you've already got all the equipment out and ready, it might be traveling around the equipment, you might be in different animals, you might be playing the beans game, it's like jelly bean and they got a wiggle, or runner bean and they got to run around the area, as long as it's safe and it's controlled. So variety of different warm-ups. If you're on like week 2 or week 3, that could be a little recap of what you've done the last week as well. But really just sort of getting children moving around the hall and becoming comfortable within that space. What it isn't is static stretches where you're asking 7 and 8-year-olds to do a static stretch when actually 7 and 8-year-olds don't pull their muscles. They don't need to do stretches where they stand still and stretch. They don't really need to do dynamic stretches. But I guess the only fun thing with it is that if you're being a giraffe, yeah, you might be stretching out your calves or whatever, but actually you're more doing it to have fun at that age group. It's not really to stop any injuries and stuff, because it's not really going to happen. They're so flexible at that age anyway. But anyway, so you've got your warm-up. Let's say this structure or this lesson that I'm delivering today is on rolls. Okay, so what I would probably have is my warm-up, and then I'd have my rolls here. And so what I would look at, so it's like the skill section. So the rolls are going to be, I'll be looking at a straight roll, which is a pencil roll, for example, where it's straight arms and they're rolling on the floor. Can they roll? Can they stop halfway? Can they roll without their arms or legs touching the floor? All that sort of stuff. And what you probably have is maybe if I've got a class of 30 children, I'll probably have 15 mats laid out or 10 mats and put them in groups of 2 or 3. Over 3, you're going to have lots of kids waiting. They're going to be silly. The behaviour management becomes a lot more difficult from your side. So smaller groups is always best. And then, yeah, like I say, just experimenting in different roles. Now, if you can't do a forward roll as a teacher, it doesn't matter. You've got to know your kids. And if there's somebody who you think is confident to show a forward roll, then you can show them that forward roll. If you're going to do like a teddy bear roll and you can do it, brilliant, do the demonstration. But if you can't, use one of the kids as well. So that will be sort of like your second third. You really work on the skill and showing them different techniques. And then you're going to have like routines. Okay, so routines at the end, so that'll be a third of maybe in the 2s or 3s that they're working in. Right, what I want you to do now, guys, is create a routine which includes 3 different rolls, 2 different types of balance, and 3 different ways of movement for a year 6 class, for example. For a year 1 class, or like 6 and 7-year-olds, it might be that you're just going, right, guys, I want you to create a routine which includes 3 rolls. And so what they're going to do is, in their pairs, they got this guy, all right, what are we going to do? A teddy bear roll? Which way are we going to roll? Are we going to do it together? Are we going to do it in canon or unison? And all these different parts there. So that's your sort of standard lesson that I like to deliver it like that. When you come to your routines, this is like, if you're doing a football PE lesson, you normally end up with matches at the end, and routines are like your matches for like an outdoor sport. So really focus on that, and then in that area, can we get maybe half the class to show the other half, get some positive feedback, all that sort of stuff as well makes a really big difference. So that is sort of like your standard structure. The next structure I'm going to talk to you about is if I have, again, same sort of time frame, whether this be an hour or 45 minutes or whatever. But then within here, I was going to have it's called a whole part whole. So it's whole part hold. Now this is a little bit more of like a newer type of style to teaching. Doesn't mean it's better, it doesn't mean it's worse, but it's like hold. So for example, I would give all my children their mat and I would say from the off, so there's no warm up, it's straight into, right guys, I want you to create a routine with this. Okay, and then let them be creative, let them try different things. And then you can bring back into the part, and this is where you're going to break down, right, okay, roles, this is what I'm expecting. This is how I'm going to challenge you with a tuck roll. This is how I'm going to challenge you with a straddle roll. And once they then fully understand it, hopefully when they go back into their hole at the end of the lesson, they're able to deliver that at a higher standard, with better quality. So that's your whole part whole. And then finally, you can have more of like a carousel sort of lesson, which still got your, getting your shoes sorted and all that either side, but then it's really just one big session. And in my hall, I've got my hall here, and I'm going to have maybe like 10 different stations if I can, depending on the equipment that you've got. So 10 different stations, and that might be, over here is a bench and a mat, over here is a little box and a mat. It might be over here you've just got mats, or you've got the climbing frame out, or some hanging ropes and all that sort of stuff. So you have 10 different stations. Again, I'm trying to keep it to low numbers, down to 3s and 2s. If you need to, depending on your space, it's quite likely you might have to just max it at 6. But just be aware, when you do that, you've got 4 or 5 kids in a group. Maybe within those groups, you can split them into a 2 and a 3, just to make sure that it's not getting too chaotic and stuff. So, but yeah, so then what you would do is, maybe if you're working on rolls, you could have like some rolling stations over here that you're going to focus on. You're going to be here, but throughout the other areas, they've got different things to work on. So it might be that they've got balance beams and stuff like that they can work on their other skills. But when they come to these 2 stations, you're really overseeing that and making sure that they're working on their roles. So everybody gets a chance to work on roles with you on a smaller scale. So it's a different way to deliver it. Personally, for me, I don't like it, because then I have to focus on these 2, and if somebody over here needs my attention, then a child who's waited the whole time to get onto the rolling station doesn't get my attention when it's needed. But it does work for some people. I have seen it work really effectively for some people. So worth considering. So that's your structure. We're now going to move into safety. Okay, so safety is obviously a really important thing with gymnastics, and I think it's one of them, it's part of the reason why so many people are so uncomfortable delivering gymnastics. They're a little bit worried about, what can they do, what can't they do, and all that sort of stuff. So I'm going to run you through sort of like the main questions that I get asked when when it comes to gymnastics, when I'm delivering gymnastics CPD sessions. So the first one is going to be the wall bars. So I'm going to create some wall bars. You've probably all seen them in your schools. Okay, something that looks like this, and it might be connected to other bits and pieces. Now, the first thing that you might ask is, right, how high can a 6-year-old go? How high can an 11-year-old go? Okay, so have a think in your head what you would do there. But the guidance currently is that, or when I went on my course, was that any child can go as high as they like, because if a child's not comfortable, they won't go higher than where they're comfortable. Okay, so that's the first thing. So a child can go as high as they like, but once they get to the top, they can't climb over the top. Okay, they can climb through the wall bars, but they can't get to the top and climb over the top. It's not designed to be climbed over. As well as that, you might have like little wires that are attaching it to the ceiling. So obviously they can't touch that. If it's high enough to actually touch the ceiling, they're not allowed to touch the ceiling, all them sort of stuff, bits and pieces. They're not allowed to touch other children on there as well, unless they're working in a group and it's something that they know is going on. But what you don't want is kids like accidentally standing on somebody else's hands on the wall bars if they're below them. I was told not to put a mat. So if you put a mat at the bottom, it's a big no, okay? And that's because a mat is there to encourage landing, okay? So when we use mats in gymnastics to encourage landing, I've worked in schools where they're really not happy about having a mat there, and ultimately it comes down to the school and the setting that you're working in. But best practice is not to put a mat there, because you're encouraging them to jump, and actually a little thin mat like this, when they jump from 2-3 meters up, is not going to help at all. Okay, so you're sort of encouraging a bad behavior there. So even if this is just like 30 centimeters, like nothing, they are not allowed to jump. If they jump, give them a little warning. So it's just a step down. And there's other bits as well. Probably your wall bars will be stored up against the wall, and you'll have to bring them out. When you bring them out, there's normally little hooks and stuff that you've got to put in, so just making sure all of that's in place. And basically just give it a little move, give it a little shake. If it's wobbling, doesn't feel safe, you've probably not put all the bits in that you meant to. If it's sturdy and strong, then the kids can go on. Okay, so that's your wall bars. As well as that, you'll often have maybe some questions about jumping and flights. Now, let's say I've got my drawing is absolutely awful, by the way. So let's say I've got my box here and a little mat for little Jimmy to jump onto. Okay, so Jimmy's jumping onto the mat. Now, what we need to be really careful with this is that Jimmy lands properly. Okay, so we normally teach jumping and stuff from a lower ground, and so they learn how to jump properly. But the danger isn't normally the flight. The danger is another child walking across and maybe getting a hit in the air. Okay, so when you're in flight, you're not in control of your body. So once you've jumped, if somebody gets in your way, there's nothing you can do. So just making sure that you create a safe structure there. And there'll be some other bits and pieces as well. So feel free to drop it in the comments as well. But they're the main ones: flight and the wall bars. Maybe rolls if you're a little bit uncomfortable on those. Just learning, making sure you're using the right techniques as well. So that's safety. And then I'm going to move on to skills. Skills are what we actually teach in gymnastics at primary school level. Now, it's very different. If you deliver gymnastics in a local gymnastics club, the sort of stuff that you'll be doing is very different to actually what it looks like in a PE lesson in a school where you've got 30 children in a small hall. So different things that you'll be working on throughout your maybe 6-week block will be, you'll have flight, which is obviously when they're jumping and landing. Okay, so when your body comes off of the ground, you're going to have movement. That'll be maybe like the way that children are moving around the wall bars, how they're going to move when they're doing their routines, all that sort of stuff. You've got balance. So different balances. That's not just like balancing on a beam. That will be balancing in different positions and different shapes. And just making sure that you can work on children on that as well. You'll be working on shapes. So shapes being, there's 5 shapes you should know: tuck shape, star shape, straight shape, straddle shape, and pike shape. Okay. You're also going to have rolls. So we sort of touched on them earlier, but forward rolls, teddy bear rolls, straight rolls, tuck rolls, different parts of that as well. And then you're going to be working on your routines and partner work as well. Okay, so that's pretty much like the main 6 that you'll be looking at throughout your 6-week block. There's probably a few other ones that I've missed, but they're sort of like your main core ones. So obviously, hopefully your school has lesson plans that you can use which work in line with this, but it's just having that understanding before you start a curriculum of gymnastics, actually understanding like what you're leading towards. And really, you're looking to, by week 6, you should be able to say, right, I want to see 1 flight, 2 different types of movement, 3 types of balance, 1 shape, and 2 rolls. And you put that on the whiteboard, and actually they then go away and create a routine which puts all that in place. Okay, whether that be with all the fancy equipment or whether that just be on a mat. Okay, it's down to what equipment you have and the resources. But that sort of gives you a little oversight, a bit of a some stronger understanding of what your PE lesson should look like. If you've got any questions, please do drop us an email or put it on the comments, and yeah, I'll be more than happy to help. So yeah, give us a like if you can, and if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. And guys, if you haven't already, please check out this video here, which is all about how to deliver a really good throwing and catching lesson. It was delivered at one of our CPD sessions. And this video here has also got lots of information, different games and ideas on how to deliver a throwing and catching lesson. So 2 throwing and catching lessons there if you haven't checked them out already.